Alright, so let's try playing another IFR flight somewhere in the Southern California region. Let's try Chino, departure airport at least. Chino. And then as far as the destination goes, let's see. Maybe Palm Springs. Pretty high MEAs going over those mountains. We have, let's try Ramona. Oops. Romeo November Mike. Alright. And let's see, we want to check to see if we need an alternate. So, in previous videos I was showing myself just really looking at the METARs, but remember we want to look at or use our 0, 1, 2, 3 rule, so for an hour before and after our planned arrival time, we want to have 2,000 foot ceilings and 3 statute miles. If that's the case, then we don't need an alternate. But it's never a bad idea to include one, at least in your thought process. So yeah, so METARs look like it's VFR there now. We'll take a look at forecast on the TAF. This is from November Kilo X-ray TAF, which is one of the military, Miramar's field there, so pretty close by. But that's showing, let's see, if we're depart at say 8:30, arrive at 9:30, then an hour before to an hour after, still VFR. So we should be good. Not requiring no necessary alternate. From day 10:05, sky clear. Okay. And then 1500, sky clear. Okay. And then again, METAR showing clear skies, 10 statute mile visibility. Okay. So nothing required, but we'll take another look at that when we get to the filing section. Alright, so now we want to take a look at routes. We have a tech route, again, tower route control. We have ATC cleared, showing on 4 points, so we'll take that one. And then we'll do 7,000 as an altitude, and we'll take a look at the MEAs, make sure that's going to work. We'll say 8:30 p.m. for departure time. Okay. So we'll probably have an ODP coming out of Chino, getting us to Paradise VOR, and then out of there, we'll check our altitude, so 6,000, we'll get 7,000, down to Tanner, following Victor 186, that's 5,000, Deagle, and then Robin intersection, and then, so the Victor 208 is at 8,000, however, I do believe, because you're heading over the Julian VOR, which is in mountainous terrain, or higher elevation terrain, and then going to Ramona. But if we do take a look at the approach plates into Ramona, let's try the RNAV GPS runway 9er. It's also, looks like that the wind favors that. So there's a couple of initial approach fixes. Expect to get vectored, but if we put Robin on there, then that's going to be on our route. So we can just shoot the approach from Robin. We won't need Bondo. So if I remove Bondo from the route, I think that'll deconstruct the tech route. And it broke it up. And it broke all the tech route up. But And we're also not going to go to Julian, so let's remove that. So do Robin, and then following the approach plate essentially from that point on. So altitude-wise, that's checked. That's 7,000. And now let's take a look at what our departure procedure is going to be out of Chino. So Chino, departure. Let's take a look at, so we have a diverse vector area and then takeoff minimums. Let's go look at the diverse vector area for Chino. We have takeoff minimums. Okay, if we're doing 2-6 left, 2-6 right, just remind ourselves where that wind is coming out of. Chino wind's variable at 3, so we're favoring the normal or the typical runways, the 2-6 left and right runways. And left is much longer, so we'll favor that one. But let's go back to our ODP. Okay, so 2-6 left and right, Cat AB, standard with a minimum climb of 270 feet per nautical mile at 4,800. So if we're climbing at 90 knots, then that's going to be 1.5 times 270. So about 400 feet per nautical mile climb rate, or per feet per minute. So it'll be good there. And Cat C and D don't apply to us. We'll take a look at the departure procedure. So 2-6 left, climbing left turn direct to Paradise Vortex. And then all aircraft climb to Paradise Vortex holding pattern. We're going to hold east, right turns, 258 inbound to the appropriate MEA. Okay. So take that in mind. Let's go back to, let's close that. So we're going to be doing that ODP. Climbing left turn direct to Paradise. Okay. And then we'll hold in Paradise until we can climb to at least 6,000. Or as otherwise directed by ATC. Then we're going to climb up to our altitude. The altitude will file at 7,000. And then let's take a look at the approach plate. So the RNAV, RNAV GPS, runway 9er for Ramona. Make sure the plate is current. It is current. And we have final approach course 088. Runway landing 5,001 feet. That's sufficient. Touchdown zone elevation 1389. Airport elevation 1395. Non-standard takeoff minimums. Non-standard alternates. So circling not authorized north of runway 927. Okay. It's not authorized for Cat C. Okay. DME or Cat A. So DME, RNP is 0.3. Not or less than 0.3 is not authorized. It's not applicable to us. We're not using dual DMEs, and then LNAV minima not authorized when using the Gillespie field altimeter setting. Okay, so we'll keep that in mind if we're not able to get, if we have to use the Gillespie field. So when local altimeter not received, we'll use Gillespie. Increase all our circling MDA up to 180 feet, and increase circling visibility at Bravo, such as Cat Bravo. So just increase our MDA 180 feet. And then note for helicopters, so missed approach, climbing left turn to 5,000, direct Robin and hold. So that looks like if we go missed, climbing left turn direct Robin, which is on that routing, we're coming from the north to intersect and just attempt the approach again. Okay, so ATIS 132.025, last frequency we expect to hear SoCal on is 132.2, and then we go over to tower at 119.875. If we get down there at after 8, I do believe their tower is closed, so expect CTA operations, and then ground 1.65 Unicom frequency. So we're going to enter the approach on the initial approach fix at Robin, and then we can start the descent if we haven't already, down to 3,700, assuming we're clear for the approach, and then fly by AXOC, and then once we pass that, gonna 088 heading, and we're gonna take that down another 500 feet, 3,200 feet. Final approach fix at KCNO. Cross that, we're gonna be configured for landing of our needles on magenta appropriately. Frequency switched over to tower frequency if we haven't already switched over to, or if we haven't already been directed to do so. Then we want to make sure our altitude checks at that point, so we should be intersecting KCNO at 3,200, seen here. So we'll check for that. Alright, and then take it down to IOTA. It's going to be 2.9 nautical miles from one-way 9er. And then final approach, or excuse me, missed approach points, runway 9er threshold. If we don't have the required, one of the required items in sight, we'll go missed. So that's climbing left turn to 5,000, direct to Robin. So AXOC, stay above 3,700, descend down KCNO, keep the descent coming. So that's a 3.54 degree glide path, glide slope. So it's going to be a little bit steeper than normal. Keep that in mind. And then if we get our LNAV minima, take it down to an MDA of 2240. So we'll cross IOTA at 2520. We'll descend down to 2240. And then fly that into until we reach the missed approach point. And we do have a VDP that's noted at 2.2 nautical miles to runway 9er, so we'll keep that. We're looking at the GPS unit giving us a distance to the missed approach point. So at 2.2 we should have the runway or field or one of the required objects in sight. Okay. And then if the tower is not in operation, then we'll keep an eye on circling minimums. Oh, it's also 2240. Just a mile and a quarter visibility instead of a mile with LNAV. And we'll want to keep that in mind, just in case there's other VFR traffic in the pattern. If we're going to try and enter the pattern, make sure we're not interfering with it. And we'll just note minimum safe altitude of 7,800 feet, then 25 nautical miles of runway 9er. Alright, so there's our plate, approach plate. Let's see if we can set up our craft clearance to help ourselves out when we get there. So we're going to be cleared to, likely, to Ramona. Via routing, it's going to be direct Paradise, then Victor 186, to Robin. Is that two B's or two N's? Two N's. And then direct. Oops. And then altitude, we will see what they give us for altitude. Okay, and then frequency, expect 125.5. Otherwise, maybe 134.5 in this area. We'll just line out the one that it isn't. And then transponder frequency we'll get when they give it to us. Okay, so let's close that up and pack our bags. Okay, now let's go to our briefing. Alternate. In this case, I would think the weather's likely going to be similar everywhere in the region, so if anything, I would probably just take it back to Chino. Alternatively, could plan for maybe San Diego. They have approaches with lower minimums if you're concerned for weather. Today doesn't really seem to be a concern, but we can see Imperial County's way inland. So we'll try McKellen Palomar actually, because they do have the ILS. So we'll put that as a alternate if we were going to actually take the flight. Then we'll take a look at the briefing, go through that. Okay, TFR's in the area down near the border in the Disney, so no concerns. Signet Oscar. So we have on Signet during the time frame. The area, occasional severe turbulence below 8,000 due to standing low-level winds and mountain wave action. Okay, so we'll take a look at the weather reports, the winds and the METARs when we get to that point. It was windier earlier today, but it has calmed down quite a bit, so I expect turbulence to have reduced. Turbulence low, yeah, in that area. And then take a look at the surface analysis. We got that trough off the coast, moving inland. High pressure up to the north. And then some precipitation over the Central Valley, but nothing really significant in our area or on our route of flight. METARs, all VFR in the whole area. And then I can look at the wind specifically for departing. So variable at 3, and then let's see, going southwards we cross Corona 6, coming out of the northeast 11, gusting 16. Okay. Riverside's 073 knots. And then we get down to Foxtrot 70. Forget the name of the airport at the moment, but their winds are calm. Okay. And then Ramona is at 034 knots. So I don't really expect the turbulence to be persistent. See if there's any PIREPs on it. Just this is out over by Santa Monica, just south of San Diego, more LA. Okay. No cloud coverage really to speak of. Surface winds light like we were looking at, and then forecast to be even lighter as it gets later into the night. TAFs consistent with the METARs, all VFR, particularly during our route of, or during our planned flight time. CRQ, the alternate. Wind's kind of coming out of the east, if anything. East-northeast looks like. Yeah, nothing real significant. Alright, temperatures. So, all the way up to our planned route of flight, it's +4, so that's no real concern for icing, and there's real no cloud cover, so should be no concern for icing. And winds aloft, you have a +5 on this chart. And then up higher, if we needed to, it's still above freezing, so that's good to know. Departure NOTAMs, have a chance to review these if you haven't already looked at them. Chino, FTC NOTAMs, okay. Destination NOTAMs for the apron, aerodrome, surface work in progress, okay. And then OTP Ramona, takeoff NOTAMs and obstacle departure procedures amendment. Runway 9er, departure procedure not authorized except for visual climb over airport, vertical climb over airport. To double check that. Okay, and then alternate NOTAMs at McKellen, Elmar. Obstructions, airspace, DC, okay. And route NOTAMs. Lots of notes here. No real changes. Okay, lots of NOTAMs. Okay, so went through our briefing. Now I just want to take note of like a last minute check our NW craft things. So NOTAMs have checked whether we've gone through our any known ATC delays, nothing of note, runway lengths. So should be sufficient for a 172 departure. At Chino, so we have 7,000 feet on runway 26 left. So that's good there. And then at Ramona, we have for landing available, let's see, 5,000 foot runway, so we'll be good there. And then alternates we have for McClellan or back to Chino. And then fuel, we're going to be at full fuel, but we anticipate flight time of approximately 52 minutes. So at full fuel, we'll have more than enough fuel, including time for the alternate. And then the takeoff and landing distance, anticipate no changes to normal one person takeoff landing weight for 172, roughly 500 feet takeoff and say 1,000 feet for landing, rough estimates. So we're fine with those runways we have, and then at this point we just file. So we would go to our flights and fill in any other additional information we may want to include and file, but we're not going to do that today. We'll just call it there and try and plan another one sometime soon. All right. Thanks for following along.